IVM.
Welcome to episode 71 of the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast, India's favourite weekly cricket podcast. This is DJ from London, and I've got with me a full house this week. I've got Ashwin from Cincinnati and Varun from Singapore. How's it going, guys? How are you doing?
All good, man. All good. Enjoying some nice India versus West Indies cricket, which is at a horrible time zone for me. So I watch only one innings.
How's it going for you, Ashwin?
Yeah, it's the opposite for me. It's all day for me. All day. Like it starts at 9:30 in the morning. So weekend games are fantastic. This is not something I get to say very often living in this part of the world. So pretty exciting.
Awesome, guys. Awesome. So there's plenty to chat about as always in this cricketing week. We've got an Ashes update. We've got a few retirements. The G20 is just finished. We've got some controversy about conflicts of interest. And of course, as Varun said, the West Indies versus India series going on in the Caribbean. So let's dive straight into it, guys. Let's give you an Ashes update first, because when we recorded last Sunday, Australia were 260 runs ahead. They'd got 5 wickets in hand, and we were talking about an Australian win on day 5. Varun, do you want to talk our listeners through what went on actually after we recorded the podcast?
Absolutely, DJ. So we had, I think when I was hosting last week, I had said that it's around tea time, and we were expecting Australia to probably get 320, 340, and we thought that would still be a good enough score. And we actually predicted that, Nathan Lyon will be the X factor on day 5. So as it stands, Stephen Smith made 142 in the third innings. Matthew Wade made 110. And again, the tail kind of wags for Australia quite often. Tim Paine, Pattinson, Cummins, all chipped in with a very handy, double-digit scores, almost close to 30s, 40s. And they got 487. They ultimately declared, leaving England a target of 398, which, to be honest, for any team, anything above 300, I think is very difficult. Even for England, with Butler, Stokes, Bairstow, Moeen Ali in the middle order, it looked like a very difficult task. So England then came out. Centurion Rory Burns got out early. Roy showed a little bit of class with his 28 with few boundaries, but didn't seem to click. Joe Root as well. And basically, after the top 3 or 4 guys, it almost again looked like a single-digit scorecard. And Nathan Lyon just kind of ran through everyone, right? He bowled 20 overs, 5 maidens, picked up 6 wickets for just 49 runs. And so it was great because I actually got 1 or 2 messages from people who heard the podcast saying, wow, you guys really predicted that well. And Cummins, on the other hand, picked up the other 4. So pretty much these 2 bowlers wrapped them up in 52 overs. They got 146 all out. And it was a fantastic start for Australia in the Ashes. They won by 251 runs, which honestly I would have never predicted.
Yeah, thanks, Varun. That's a great wrap. I just want to dive a little bit deeper into a couple of those performances. Ashwin, your thoughts about Nathan Lyon as a bowler winning test matches for Australia. You remember the Adelaide test that he won for Australia against India where Kohli got that amazing 141. But Lyon, what a bowler he's become for Australia. Your thoughts on Lyon?
Yeah, absolutely incredible. They tried him in the World Cup and they've tried him on and off with limited overs formats, and he hasn't necessarily been the same force. But in a test match, and somehow in particular in a 4th innings, he's just absolutely magnificent. And so that's what it comes down to, right? He may not have the sort of big game flair and some of those, he probably doesn't have 8 different variants of deliveries, etc., but he knows how to hit that rough. He is consistent and he just has this knack to pick up wickets. So exactly what they relied on, exactly what we talked. It was almost textbook from Australia. Win the toss, bat first, end up setting a ridiculously large 4th innings chase, and then have Nathan Lyon clean it up for you. Just perfect.
Thanks, Ashwin. And Varun, your thoughts on Pat Cummins? How did you think he went?
Yeah, Pat Cummins, we've been talking about him for a while. I genuinely think he's one of the best all-rounders today, a little bit underrated, and I think that might work in his favor a little bit rather than being in the media and the news and the headlines all the time. But yeah, I thought he was really good. He's great with the bat. He hit a crucial 26 in the second innings for Australia. He took 4 wickets in the 4th innings. And, honestly, the Australian team talks a little bit about the workload management of pacers. I actually personally feel Cummins is probably going to play all the games. I think the other guys are the ones who are going to need the workload management.
And any final thoughts about Steve Smith? Is there anything to the theory that he's got a weakness in the 140s? And I suppose there's worse weaknesses to have, right?
Yeah, I think 140 twice is okay. I think he'll live with that weakness. But I found it interesting. I think 3 or 4 days after the last test, he kind of tweeted saying, I took some time to reflect on that. And that was a special way to start the Ashes. And of course, his comeback. So really great. I mean, again, you guys know I follow social media a lot. I saw there was I think Leach is coming in for the second test. He's a left-arm spinner. And you had Steve Smith playing and practicing against left-arm spinners. And one of the captions on a video actually said he played over 1,000 balls in the net that day. So it's just insane.
Yeah, there's been a lot of chat about his work ethic, and Steve Warren's come out and said that, and Justin Langer's come out and said that nobody works as hard as Steve Smith. And basically, I think Graham Hick is their batting coach, and his arm is now basically falling off because of the number of throwdowns he's had to give Steve Smith, which is, I mean, it's absolutely incredible, isn't it? Ashwin, coming to the second test at Lord's, what do you think England need to do to compete again, and where do you see this England team going? Do they need to panic now?
Yeah, I don't think they need to panic. I think if you really think about it, there was a few things that didn't work in their favor, the biggest being Jimmy Anderson's injury. So I'm not sure of the latest status on him. I'm assuming he's out for now and Archer will be drafted in, and that should be a huge help for them. I mean, just missing your lead strike bowler for what they ended up bowling almost 2.5 or close to 3 full days they bowled. That's really, really incredibly difficult. Broad did a pretty good job. I think they've made a choice that Ali is not in good enough form to survive. So Jack Leach coming in at least to the squad will help. So I wouldn't panic if I was England. The Ashes is a long series. They have to keep reminding themselves they're at home. They have the ability to step up. They have the skill as a side, and I think they'll bring their A game. So I think for me, it's going to come down to the choice of opener. Do they persist with Jason Roy? And then how do they manage that spin option? And if Jack Leach comes in, he can be handy with the bat, as we saw as well. So those will be what it comes down to. And then finally, of course, Jofra Archer.
Yeah, Jason Roy's shot, I think it'll be the stuff of nightmares for him, dancing down the track and getting bowled with a horrible hike across the line. But we'll see whether they stick with him at Lord's. Moving on, guys, there's obviously the Ashes. Yeah, go on.
I think they've already released their test squad.
For the 11 for the game on Wednesday.
They've released the 12. So you've got basically Archer coming in, Moeen Ali definitely out, James Anderson out. But yeah, you've got Jack Leach, Joe Denley, Sam Curran, Jason Roy. And so this is the 12. So definitely one of them will sit out. But I think I think Archer is going to be the X factor, man. You already got Justin Langer coming out and making comments saying we need to wear him down. I mean, in a game where I can't remember which county he plays for, but in a game where he had to go out and, show his fitness, he actually took 6 wickets and I think hit a 98 ball 100.
Yeah, it was fantastic. There was some tweets on the county championship account where he was bowling to the second 11 players and the ball was flying over the keeper's head. It was just a bit of a mismatch, I think. But I mean, Jofra Archer is going to be the X factor, as you say. We will have to see whether England can bounce back. I think they've got a fairly good record at Lord's of late. They bowled India out in 3 days twice last time we were there. In fact, you and me were sitting in the crowd pretty depressed by the end of it. So yeah, we'll have to see how that goes. So guys, the next thing I wanted to talk about was the retirements that we've had this week. You obviously had Dale Steyn retiring, Hashim Amla's retired, and Brendon McCullum has retired as well. So I'm going to come first to Dale Steyn. Ashwin, how disappointing is it for South African fans to see this great man bow out of the game? I mean, he's been such a great servant for South African cricket. What are your memories of Dale Steyn?
Yeah, absolute icon of the game. I mean, very, very disappointing to have seen him have the sort of in and out career and then injury and then comes back, gets injured again pretty quickly. So really disappointing. I think when you bowl at the speed he does and with the jump he has and that toll you put on your right shoulder, it doesn't surprise me that he's had multiple shoulder surgeries and it's been incredibly difficult. That said, I mean, he played 93 test matches for 439 wickets, I think it is, which is an absolutely incredible record. Average of 22, like under 23, and an economy of 3.2 or so, striking every 42 balls. So just an absolutely incredible bowler. I really think he could have been the player who went on to play, 140, 150 test matches, pick up probably upwards of 500, 550, 600, maybe even wickets. Could have been the first pacer to do it. But we know it's incredibly difficult on the body as a fast bowler. So very, very thankful to have been able to watch Dale Steyn growing up. I mean, it's interesting as you think about the generation above us got to say they watched the Malcolm Marshalls and those sort of fast bowlers growing up. And for us, it was Dale Steyn, Jimmy Anderson, and these guys. So sad to see the first really big one retiring, but we wish him well in whatever's next for him.
And do you think, Ashwin, if he had celebrated less the way he did, he might have extended his career?
It's possible. I think he maybe could have learned something from Tahir and just focused on sprinting instead of actually pumping his fist.
Yeah, I think it was the chainsaw celebration that was made famous by Dale Steyn, wasn't it? I mean, what a sight that was with a fast bowler celebrating like that. But his teammate as well, Hashim Amla, a real class player, decided to call it quits. Varun, your memories of Hash?
Yeah, he was awesome, man. I mean, he's the guy who, whenever we played South Africa, whether it was when you and I went down to South Africa as well, we were always just praying that we just get Hashim Amla out early. We don't want to be there to see him, hit another one of his records. But really incredible across the three formats, 15 years, 349 matches, over 18,000 runs. And I think the thing that, we are very proud of the fact that Kohli has a great ODI record, but Amla actually is the quickest batsman to reach the landmarks of 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 and 7,000 runs in ODI. How insane is that?
And that's an absolutely incredible stat. And the one thing I wanted to point out, on Dale Steyn is that he's only retired from test matches. He's still going to be playing the limited overs game. So that's good news for fans of fast bowling generally. The last retirement, and I think that's one quite close to all of our hearts, is Brendon McCullum, right? He decided to call it quits after the GT20. He said that he wants to do everything wholeheartedly and his body wasn't going to be supporting him with this anymore. And he basically had enough of it. My memories of Baz are actually when he came here in 2015, I think, or maybe the year before that, where he had slips in the one-day game, in the middle overs, playing attacking cricket, and playing in a good spirit, to be honest, because New Zealand were not known to be the nice guys that they are now. He kind of remodeled the image of New Zealand cricket. So, and also, of course, he scored that incredible 158, right, to start the IPL off. So those are my two big memories of Baz. Ashwin, Varun, anything to add on Brendon McCullum before we move on?
No, nothing, man. He was somebody who changed the course of the game, and I think T20 came at the right time at his career. It was perfect for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of T20, the G320 final was yesterday. Ashwin, were you watching that game? What an incredible match that was.
I was. It was Sunday afternoon for me. Perfect time to have cricket on. I had my dual screen going, playing the India-West Indies game, which we'll talk about later, and the G20 final. And it was an absolutely incredible final. So just to walk through it really quickly, the final was between the Vancouver Knights, who were the reigning champions from last year. They're the team with Russell and Gayle, so really hard to take on. And of course, Gayle is no longer playing because he's flown for national duty. And it was against the Winnipeg Hawks, who were led by Rayad Emrit, but with Chris Lynn being their main sort of superstar. And JP Duminy as well, of course. So the Hawks batted first, having lost the toss, made 192 for 8, which sounds really high, but I mean, it's a smallish ground. So I think 200 is about par on this wicket. Shaiman Anwar, who's a UAE batsman, 40 years of age now, made 90 of just 45 balls, and everybody else sort of chipped in a little. So they got to 192, which felt a little bit short. And then some absolutely brilliant early bowling had the Vancouver Knights, again, reigning champions, at 2 for 2, and really sort of struggling. They lost their fourth wicket for just 53. And it was very interesting to see, because at about what was it? It was about from the 8th over onwards, Shoaib Malik was batting with Saad bin Zafar. And Malik was batting well, but Saad bin Zafar, who was an absolutely legendary player for them last season, could not get bat on ball. He just couldn't. Like, he kept trying, he kept swinging, kept hitting. And all the commentators, Simon Duell especially, were saying, you have Andre Russell coming in next. How much is too much to leave for him? And I remember messaging you guys. At one point, it was 93 needed from 39 balls. One batsman who's out there just could not get bat on ball. And Russell was sitting there looking frustrated. But still, given the IPL he had this year, you would say 93 from 39. Yeah, maybe it's doable for a guy like Russell. Anyway, the pressure got to them. Shoaib Malik got run out. Russell walks in, sort of as you've come to expect from him now, hits 5 quick sixes, gets 46 off 20 balls. It's the last over, and they needed 3 from the last 3 balls. And then this, I don't know how old he is, this young bowler named Kaleem Sana, who's from Pakistan, he's only 25, bowls 2 dot balls. So now it's come down to 3 from 1. And anyway, final ball, Russell nudges into the leg side, overthrow. They managed to get 2 runs, Shoaib Malik gets run out on the 3rd, and we had a super over. So absolutely incredible. Russell actually came on to bat for the super over, and then he bowled as well. But unfortunately, that went against him, and the Winnipeg Hawks took the super over. So not that this is anywhere close to the World Cup, but second super over we've seen in a tournament in the last few weeks. Pretty exciting stuff. Good for the game of cricket and good for Canada in general.
Yeah, just an incredible finish to that game. And Varun, under Russell, is he the greatest T20 player in the history of T20 cricket?
I mean, that's a tough one to answer. Russell frustrates me at times as well with his shots. But I would say in the last 6 to 12 months, yeah, he's definitely been the standout performer in T20 cricket. Like Ashwin said, there's never a total that is enough for him. You're always worried. And I think it's that whole debate, where should he bat? Should he come early? Should he come late? He seems to be doing well in all positions. But yeah, I mean, for me, I'd like to see him for another couple of years before making that claim.
I guess Gayle, who we'll talk about more later in the show, will have something to say about that. But the last topic on this roundup of the world of cricket that I wanted to speak about is Rahul Dravid, right? He got a conflict of interest notice, and he was sent this a week or so ago. He's got a conflict of interest notice because he holds a vice president position with India Cements, who actually own the CSK team in the IPL, as well as him being the coach of the India under-19 team, as well as the India A team. The conflict of interest is expected to be resolved next week, but this phrase conflict of interest seems to be popping up all over the place. We saw earlier that Sachin and VVS Lakshman they left the CAC, the Cricket Advisory Committee, because they apparently had conflicts of interest. Ganguly's been accused of having a conflict of interest as he's mentoring the Delhi Capitals, the team that we support. And the latest in this line of conflict of interest is Rahul Dravid. Now, guys, Dravid, the person he is and the integrity he's shown always as a cricketer as well as a coach, are these conflict of interest rules being pushed too far, do you think? Or is there an argument for one person to only hold one position in respect of Indian cricket? And I say that as the Indian coach is being selected, and the committee to select that Indian coach has also been asked to clear conflicts, because Kapil also holds another position at the moment. So, guys, your thoughts on these conflict of interest rules? Are we getting too overly formalistic and legalistic about this, or is this needed in Indian cricket where one person wears many hats and there could be accusations of conflict of interest? Varun, your thoughts?
Man, so the thing is, I think it is a little overboard, but the point is, when somebody points a finger at you or raises this, I mean, I think you want to get as far away as it is possible, right? You don't want things to come down later. You don't want things to be brought up in the future. Especially with the Dravid situation, knowing, I mean, from whatever little we've known, read, watched Dravid, clearly it's not important enough. It's not a conflict of interest from his perspective or from the viewer's perspective. But again, I just feel in this, it's better to be safe. So I kind of get where they're coming from.
Yeah, just to list the number of conflicts of interest we had Lakshman and Ganguly were found in conflict. Sachin wasn't found in conflict, but he decided not to be part of the committee. Kapil was part of the newly formed Indian Cricketers Association, and therefore the panel for selection of the coach came under question. Ganguly obviously had the role as Delhi Capitals mentor as well as a TV commentator. So we're seeing more and more of this, and it'll be interesting to see how it resolved itself, because this point was raised previously when Dravid was made the part of the NCA. So the National Cricket Academy. So his association with India Cements was cleared back in July, but it's raised its head again. So very interesting how this is all playing out. Obviously, the BCCI remains in flux, so we'll see how that plays out next week, and we'll be back with an update. So that's kind of the update from the world of cricket at this point. So everything other than the West Indies versus India series, which we'll come to straight after this short break.
Hey everybody, welcome to another awesome week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you're not following us on social media, please make sure you do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You know, I have been asking you guys to do this. I think some of you are, but some of you aren't. Have you told your best friend about your favorite podcast? Please make sure you do that as well. You are our ambassadors. If you don't go out and evangelize on our behalf, who's going to do it? So please go out and tell somebody about the podcast you're listening to. If you think there's somebody who would enjoy it, refer them to IVM Podcast and tell them about all the stuff that they can find on our app or on our website or, Spotify, Savan, everywhere you're listening to podcasts, right? Just give it a shot. Also, guys, I'm going to be at Podcast Movement the coming week from the 13th to 16th of August. Podcast Movement is a conference in Orlando where we're going to be doing all kinds of podcasty stuff. So check it out. If you're in the area, please do come by and say hi. If you're not in the area, you can follow along with me by following, my social media in this case is Doshi Amit on most things. On the scene and the unseen, Amit Verma is joined by Pratik Sinha, co-founder of Alt News. They speak about living in the era of fake news, the far-reaching consequences of fake news, and the best way to debunk fake news. The English Premier League has begun and Football Twaddle is back with a new season. This season, they're introducing a Fantasy League episode which airs every Thursday along with regular episodes on Tuesday. Make sure you tune into both of them. On the last episode of this season of the Sponge Podcast, host Ambi Parmeshwaran talks about learning lessons from simple people and shares the story of Gooseby. On Tech Careers in the New, presented by Accenture, Sheila Aditya is joined by Gopali Contractor, Managing Director, Artificial Intelligence at Accenture. They talk about AI, ways to demystify it, its practical applications, and the career opportunities in this field. Check it out. I think you'll like this show. On Pulyabazi, the Hindi policy podcast, host Saurabh and Pranay talk to Mihir Mahajan, a patent strategy expert about intellectual property rights. On The Origin of Things, Chuck narrates a brand origin story that involves priests, traders, and education. Will you be able to guess the brand before Chuck reveals it? Find out by tuning in. On The Habit Coach, Ashwin is joined by nutrition and lifestyle coach Rashi Malhotra. They talk about food substitutes and recipes for a healthy life. And with that, let's get you on with your show.
Guys, welcome back from that break. And now we're going to talk about the West Indies versus India series. Guys, where we left you last week was 2 T20s were over and the third T20 was about to be played. Ashwin, do you have an update for our listeners on the third T20 versus the West Indies and India?
Yeah, it feels like forever ago, but I'll run through this really quickly. So West Indies batted first in that T20. The highlight there was Karan Pollard made 58. But from the Indian standpoint, absolutely unbelievable opening spell from Deepak Chahar, who got his opportunity, and Rahul Chahar played as well. But Deepak Chahar, 3 overs, 1 maiden, 4 runs for 3 wickets. And there's a lot of people discussing and a lot of conversation about, well, if he bowled that well for 3 overs, why didn't he get his 4th? And you can argue back and forth how Dhoni used him versus how Kohli is using him, etc. He bowled 3 pretty good overs early on, and I think there was just a choice near the end to run out Saini, run out Krunal, and then he left an unused over for Bhuvi and Chahar. So it is what it is. 146 was the total West Indies put on the board. Rahul and Dhawan came out to open, so Rohit was rested for this one. Neither of them did anything particularly good. But then Kohli at 3 and Pant at 4 basically put on a match-winning partnership. I think together they scored over 100 run, 106-run partnership. Kohli made 59, but the highlight for most of us was Rishabh Pant. Made 65 of 42 balls, so hit his 4 sixes, sort of hit some of the trademark shots we've come to know and love of him, but also did it in a way that anchored his side home. So got the team home. He probably bought himself a few brownie points with the selectors and, of course, with the media and people like us. So pretty happy to see Pant step up at number 4 in the T20 and consolidate the innings for the team.
And you missed the most important point.
What did I miss?
Do you want to tell people the biggest stat of Pant's innings?
Oh, yes, of course.
He scored the highest score in a T20 international by an Indian wicketkeeper.
I feel like I talked about it with DJ a lot. But yes, this is true. Despite Dhoni having played over 100, I don't remember what the exact stat is, but he's played over 198 T20s, 85 innings, so it's not that he doesn't bat that much. Dhoni's highest ever score was 56. So Rishabh Pant has come in here and swooped in and made 65, which is the highest ever score by a wicketkeeper in T20s. And before people ask and tweet us in and say, oh, but Dhoni bats lower down the order, etc., what I shared with DJ as well is more than half his innings were at either number 3, 4, or 5. So if Dhoni's batted most of his innings, majority of his innings at 3, 4, or 5, he really probably should have stepped up and made more than 56 at one point. But I'm going to stop. I think I'm done there for now.
I mean, I could go on. But...
Yeah, I'm just going to let Twitter troll you all by itself. So I'm going to leave that go. But there was some...
Why? What did I say wrong? There's nothing worth trolling.
No, I agree. But the best thing to come out of this is that Rishabh Pant will no longer be called Rishabh Pant. He's going to be called Rajendra Pant because that's his middle name.
Yeah.
So it's going to be Rajendra taking over from Mahendra.
And I just don't know what was prompting you to check out his middle name. But yes, it was a revelation for all of us that it's...
No, it's because I checked out these stats, right? I checked out these stats, and while I was checking out these stats that Ashwin was claiming that Pant is a legend in T20 cricket and has won all of these matches for India and stuff, I saw his middle name. I was like,
hold on, sorry. Don't say Ashwin was claiming. Don't say Ashwin was claiming as though it's wrong. Say Ashwin was claiming correctly.
He was stating the fact.
Okay, Pant is a legend. I agree.
I wasn't claiming anything. I was stating facts.
I agree. Pant is a legend. He's changed the face of Indian cricket.
I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying the wicketkeeper probably should have made more than 56 in 98 matches.
Man, the wicketkeeper before Dhoni was Dinesh Karthik. Before him was Nayan Mungia.
Nayan Mungia would have rocked it in T20 cricket.
Yeah, I agree, dude. With his 4-square bat and his yellow helmet. Anyway, so that was the third T20. Really nice innings, in all seriousness. Very nice innings by Pant. He finally kind of made his mark on the series after two pretty ordinary shots, I thought. So it's good to see him actually, the heir apparent for MS Dhoni, actually make a mark on the series and play well. And there's a lot of chat about this being a make or break for him in terms of his career going ahead as the wicketkeeper for India. So that was the third T20. India obviously swept that series 3-love. Kohli played a very nice innings as well, and that must not be forgotten because he kind of guided Pant through that partnership and accelerated when it was needed. So very nice innings from Kohli as well. And then moving on to the first ODI. Varun, I want to talk to you about the selection of Iyer because I know we all really back that guy, and it's maybe because he's done so well recently as Delhi Capitals captain. But what prompted the Indian team to play Iyer in the first ODI?
I think there's been a gap for a long time, man. I think Iyer has done well in the past. I think he's hit 250s about a year ago or a year and a half ago. He was then not brought back into the team. And if you think about it, everyone else has been given a chance. Now, what's interesting for me is that Iyer is slightly older than some of the rest of this crop of Prithvi Shaw, Gayle, Pant. And so being a captain of the Delhi team, he does look like somebody who has his head on his shoulders a little bit. And it was interesting. The media, everyone was talking about how this is Iyer's audition for number 4. And I'm pretty sure both of you as well, completely back Iyer at number 4. He's got the right temperament. He can play his quality shots. He knows how to rotate the strike. And yeah, to me, it was just interesting because I really hope India is not going to go with this, musical chairs again when now Rahul is also there. And I think you got to give Iyer his shot. And I won't steal the thunder of what happened in the match. But yeah, I personally think it was a great decision to play him.
Yeah, absolutely. And apart from the selection of Iyer, there was only one more interesting thing that went on with the first ODI before it was rained out. And those were the dance moves, man. Kohli brought out some serious dance moves along with Chris Gayle. Ashwin, what did you think of the TikTok tweet that's come out with Gayle and Kohli dancing to Mukabla from that movie, the Prabhudeva movie?
Yeah, I'm not sure really what to say. I think it was pretty funny. We'll retweet it if we haven't already. But I think, yeah, the internet is just amazing sometimes. People come up with the craziest stuff. And sometimes, so often, like all of us, you watch something and say, how on earth did this person come up with it? But they did, and it was pretty funny.
Yeah, and I know Varun and I have been watching it on repeat because it's in complete sync, right? Varun, your thoughts on the tweet?
It's in complete sync. The way Kohli jumps across the pitch, the way the music starts, the way he pauses. Gayle and him have definitely done this dance move before. It's not the first time. I wonder if it was last night. But yeah, it saddens me because I wish I had the technical ability to snip a video, match a song to that video, sync the music to it. Unfortunately, DJ, only one of us on this podcast has that ability, but he really doesn't seem interested in doing any of this.
You're definitely not talking about me. You're talking about the fantastic team at IVM who can do this for us, right? We can ask them to if you want.
Absolutely. And shout out to Abhineet for all the great work he's been doing on this podcast. Abhineet, our producer, Absolutely. That is. Anyway, guys, moving on to the second ODI, which took place yesterday on Sunday. Iyer again batted at number 5, but let's talk first about Virat Kohli. He gets it done. That's his 42nd 100. Goes past Ganguly in terms of one-day international runs, second only to Sachin for India. Guys, is this how quickly before he goes past Sachin in the ODI game? Ashwin, is he just the most phenomenal one-day player we've ever seen?
I think so, man. I think we've been saying he's on track to be for a while, and I think we're pretty much there. Like, I think it's safe to say he's probably the best ODI player to have ever played the game.
Varun?
Yeah, he is definitely. I think the key thing for me is it's been quite a while since I saw a Kohli century because in an ODI, because you had the IPL, then you had the World Cup where he didn't score a century. So it was really great to see him hit 100. 42 is just insane, honestly. I don't think he's going to take much time to even get to 50 hundreds. But yeah, he's really great. He just needs to continue to keep his head on his shoulders and start figuring out some of the other aspects of the team. But from a batsman perspective, he's by far the best.
Yeah, just to address what you mentioned, his last century was March against Australia. So he scored 2 centuries in that series in March.
Yeah, that's feels like 6 months ago.
Yeah, it was. And it's a long time for Kohli. He just generally scores a lot more. But anyway, there's a lot of discussion about but what's the point of scoring centuries in these bilaterals if he can't perform in the World Cup, etc. I mean, I don't know. My point of view is he still averaged over 50 in the World Cup. He hit 5 half centuries. So yeah, maybe compared to the standard he's set for himself, it was slightly under where we expect him to be. But I mean, when your opening batsman is averaging over 80, like that, as Rohit did, that's, I mean, how much more can you do? So anyway, that's my quick point of view on that.
Yeah, speaking of which, Varun mentioned managing other aspects of the team in air quotes, and you spoke about Rohit Sharma. Varun, did you notice any particular interaction between those two players yesterday? Because we've had a lot of chat on our Twitter about Fir Se Diwar and Diwar Part 2 and how we should cast it and stuff. So is there any truth to those rumors from what you saw yesterday?
Ashwin's going to hate us for this, but while I was watching, and I don't get a lot of ads here in Singapore, in the middle of the overs, you could see they were not speaking to each other as much as they usually did. And I'm not doing this for masala. Ashwin, I genuinely mean it.
Ashwin, did you think differently?
I did not. They had a good partnership. They batted well together. They had a couple of runs where they called poorly, but that's been the case for like 6 years of them batting together. They have always run badly between the wickets together. So I refuse to bow down to this nonsense.
But it was never this badly, right, Ashwin? Like this?
No, it was. It was always this bad. And I mean, when Rohit had a 4 walk, Kohli walked over and fist bumped him, and there was nothing that I noticed. Even when you messaged me that, they're talking about, I started watching more closely. I didn't see anything.
Do you think he fist bumped him or tried to punch him and break his knuckles?
Yeah, let's go with that. That'll be the headline. Is Rohit tries to break Kohli's knuckles because he's bad. Kohli tries to break Rohit's knuckles because he's batting too well.
Okay. I think enough masala for this week, but we've had so much chat on Twitter about Fir Se Diwar and who we should cast as Kohli and who should be cast as Rohit, and Kedar Jadhav played by Uday Chopra and stuff. Too good, yeah. Too good. Too much fun, actually. Anyway, guys, so apart from Kohli, somebody else went past the record yesterday, and that was the Gayle Storm, the other participant in the Gayle, did I just call it Gayle? Like Kohli-Gayle dance-off. The Gayle Bromance. Kayle, the Gayle Bromance. Anyway, moving on. He went past Lara's ODI record and played 300 ODIs. He didn't actually get too many runs yesterday, and he used up the review as well for the West Indies. But guys, Chris Gayle, what a player that guy is. And I mean, the West Indies seem to be so much of a better team with him involved. It seems like it's the end of the road for him at the Test side, which we'll talk about a little while later because he's out of the squad. But Varun, your thoughts about Chris Gayle as a one-day player?
Yeah, he's just been great, DJ, honestly. I mean, that's the best word to sum it up. He's provided entertainment. He's always got a smile on his face. He doesn't take himself too seriously. And yeah, he's really provided great value, especially from a fantasy perspective as well. Every time he's gone out to play, we've always had to struggle. Do we pick him? Do we not? And more often than not, we haven't and lost fantasy because of Gayle. So Yeah, he's just been incredible.
Ashwin, if he didn't have enough problems with the board, would he have done better, you think, if he had more support from the administration?
It's tricky. And I think that with West Indies cricket, that's been such an issue across the board. I mean, remember, I was talking to you guys about Russell, who took 4 wickets and made 40 runs in the GT20. He didn't play the T20s against India because of quote unquote injury. So there's obviously a lot of messed up stuff going on with the West Indies board, and it's disappointing to see. I don't know what the answer to your question is. I think we because of the last few years and because of T20, we associate Chris Gayle with sort of crash bang wallop and big sixes and this and that. But I mean, in ODIs, he played his 300th, but he's got over 10,000 runs and over 25 centuries. And his ODI strike rate is 87, which is good, but it's not the mark of just a guy who only knows how to hit sixes. So he knew how to build innings. He knew how to pace it. I mean, you do not make 25 centuries and 10,000 runs without being a quality cricketer. So credit to where it's due. I don't know if he would have done even better, but happy to see him break this milestone for his country.
Yeah, he's such a big name in the IPL, and I think we just love the way he plays his cricket. It's with a smile on his face, doesn't bother too much about fielding, which is definitely the way we like to play our cricket generally. And sorry, the last thing I wanted to talk about, guys, and because we run a blog called One Tip One Hand, our Twitter handle is One Tip One Hand, Instagram, Facebook is One Tip One Hand. Guys, did you see the corridor cricket between Kuldeep and Rishabh Pant? Varun, how awesome was that, man?
Yeah, that was too good, man. It's like all of us have done it before. I remember Ashwin and I used to take a little wooden putty or stick, and in my room at home in Gurgaon, we would just practice and play for ages. And if it hit the TV, it was out, and it was insane. We've all done this so much. DJ, you and I have done this in school as well. It was really fun watching Kuldeep and Rishabh Pant do that.
Ashwin, your memories of One Tip One Hand in the corridor?
Yeah, man. In addition to obviously what Varun said, I sent that clip. I woke up in the morning, saw you guys had sent that clip. It was like 7:30 on a Saturday morning, and I forwarded it to all my undergraduate buddies, and all of them replied so quickly saying, "Holy shit, this really takes us back." Because we had hallways that looked very similar in our undergraduate residence in first year, and we were always playing one tip one hand in the hallways. If it hit the wall directly, it was out. So you're basically only going for that classic forward defense, and just incredible memories. There's also a sprinkler system where if the ball hits the sprinkler and the sprinkler goes off, the entire building's going to get flooded because it assumes there was a fire. So there were many an occasion the ball just grazed the sprinkler, and all of us had our heart in our mouths for just a moment, hoping we don't flood the entire building. But we were safe, and we can only look back fondly on those. So incredible, just really took me back.
Yeah, and what spin Kuldeep was getting, man. You're like, I actually think he bowled much better in the game because of that corridor cricket session that he had with Pant, and Pant's keeping was also really nice. So I think
even I can get that kind of spin in tennis ball and corridor cricket, and I can spin it both ways, just FYI.
Is that when you release the tennis ball and make the flick sound?
Yeah, when it flicks and then you don't know, is it a leg spin or an off spin? Well, both of you have played with me enough to know that the flick is important, man.
Even when you visited me at my house, you used to throw the ball with the leg spin and confuse my dog when he was running to chase it. So yes, that sounds pretty fair.
Varun, we need to release some of your bowling videos. I know you've consistently denied our listeners the viewing pleasure of these bowling videos that are so famous. Can we try and get these together, especially the boomerangs?
We'll see. We shall discuss.
How many likes or retweets would it take for you to accept? That's the question.
No, you guys have done this to me before with that Viva thing or whatever. I'm not falling into that trap again.
No, why? We should do it. I have them on my phone, so just don't piss me off. Otherwise, I'll release them.
Noted.
There you have it. Blackmail on the Edge in the Sledges Cricket Podcast. We've got something for everyone. Maybe we should recategorize our podcast as a criminal category. Anyway, guys, Shubman Gill in the India A Test got a first ball duck and then got 204 not out in the second innings. I thought that was absolutely fantastic. Hanuma Vihari got 118 as well. He got 55 in the first innings too. Gautam picked up 6 wickets in the first innings. Nadeem took 5 in the second innings. So India doing well in that test, but it was a drawn test match. Unofficial drawn test match between the A sides. So good to see Vihari back in the runs, and I can't actually wait to see Shubman Gill back in the Indian team. I think he's such a fantastic talent. And Ian Bishop actually tweeted about his 204 not out double century after getting a first ball duck in the first inning. Shows character, right, guys? Ashwin, thoughts on Shubman Gill very quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. He's a quality cricketer, has done well across multiple formats. I think it's just a matter of time. And I think for us as an Indian national side, it's going to be critical that we slot him into the right place. I think bringing him in to play a role that he's not good at, either number 6 or something, is not going to do either him or the team any favors. So hopefully they can wait it out, get it right, give him lots and lots of time under Rahul Dravid, who's obviously an excellent coach at that level. And I would expect nothing but really, really big things from him.
Awesome. Thanks very much, guys. I think that's the show for this week. As always, get in touch with us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We're at One Tip One Hand. Write us an email. We're at contact@onetiponehand.com. Leave us a review wherever you listen to the podcast. We're on all the big platforms. Tell us what you think about the show. Obviously, thanks as always to the IVM team for producing the podcast and doing such a great job with it. We'll be back next week with more from the world of cricket. Let us know what you'd like to hear about. And yeah, until next week, this is Edges and Sledges signing off. Thanks.
This is the amazing story of something awesome. Once, Chuck decided to start a podcast. And so he did. The end. Okay, that was a crappy story. But I've got some really cool stories over at my new show, The Origin of Things. On this podcast, I look at the stories of how brands came into being and sometimes evolved out of quite unexpected circumstances. And to make it really fun, I reveal the name of the brand and sometimes a category only at the very end. The show is 5 to 7 minutes per episode and perfect for trivia junkies and brand nerds, especially those with short attention spans. New episodes out every Wednesday on IVM Podcasts app or website, or any podcast app or site that you happen to prefer. End of story, they lived happily ever after.
Janice, what do you think couples did before TV was invented?
I don't know, go for walks on the beach, long drives, fancy dinners, have more sex maybe?
But what did we do when we decided to move in together? We debated between the Chromecast and the Fire Stick.
We gave up on sleeping early so we could stay up watching true crime shows.
We got ourselves 3 cat babies.
And basically became the cutest couch potatoes around.
Okay then.
In case you guys still haven't got it, we are a TV crazy, Netflix loving, binge watching Mr. and Mrs.
I'm Anirudh Kuha.
I'm Janice Sequeira.
And if like us, you snort TV for breakfast, lunch and dinner, this is the podcast for you.
Tune in every Thursday on the IVM Podcast app or wherever it is that you get your podcast from. This is
Mr.
and Mrs.
Binge Watch.